Hey everybody, Brandon here. I'm a American nurse. I moved to Sweden about 3 years ago. I wanted to do a quick little video about kind of the life that I left behind when I came to Sweden. A lot of people have a lot of questions about that here in Sweden. I apologize. The film, I'm going to be driving around a little bit, and the windshield was a bit dirty. As many of you know, I was back in Texas for a short period of time because my father passed away unexpectedly. So I had some time to jump in the pickup, kind of drive around and take some video footage, and didn't think to clean off the windshield. My mind was somewhere else, as you can understand. So anyway, I thought I'd start here, kind of show y'all what it was like going from my home where I grew up. So this is a street I grew up on, and kind of take y'all a little bit around the city that I grew up in. This here used to be all a dirt road. It's changed a lot. This is kind of like middle income level of standard of living. It has changed a lot since we first moved there. Like I said, it was just an old dirt road when I first moved here. I was about 3 years old. My mother and brother still live in the original house that my dad built. It took him 30-something years to build the house. It was like he would just do it as he got the money. He was a construction worker, and he would just bring home leftover materials and barter work with other friends that did other kinds of construction work, and just kind of do it in his free time. And so I was back in town for my father's passing away to try to take care of some stuff. And like I said, we're gonna be kind of just driving around. All right, so this is kind of interesting. These roundabouts are a relatively new thing that they've started. Back in the day, we really didn't have a lot of roundabouts, so it's pretty hilarious to see how people in Texas drive and react when they get to roundabouts, because they don't really always know what to do. So yeah, we're just going to kind of go around through this neighborhood of this town I grew up in. It's a very small town. There was about 2,000 people living here. I think I'll have to look at the statistics, and I can throw that up on the screen here, but I believe it's somewhere around 4,000-ish people living here now in the town. There's been quite a few people with a lot of money that are starting to move in. They're developing a lot of the area now. And so it's kind of a mixed bag. You've got some poor areas, some low-income housing, and then you've got like very wealthy people. Here on the left, we've got the graveyard. A lot of people I know were buried there, that were acquaintances of the family. And so, yeah, this was the route that my mother would have taken every day, driving us to school. So I made this route hundreds and hundreds of times. And so this is a pretty standard house, would have been built in like 80s and 90s. Very typical in that part of Texas around that time of the year. One thing you notice too, probably in these videos, is how many trucks there are. That's a big change from Sweden. In Sweden, there's a lot of cars, a lot of bicycles, and a lot of people walk or take scooters. But here, it's really not an option in most areas of Texas. There are some downtown areas that are starting to try to put in some places for people to ride bikes, but that's not the case here. It would take you forever to get anywhere. We've got the fire station there up on the hill there. That's been there forever. And so now we're kind of going into the area where the schools are located. There's actually two different schools here. And so there's a primary school and an elementary school. And so I did some recording on a different day, on a Sunday, when there were no children there. So we'll get to take a look at that. So this first room here on the corner, there was nothing over here. I remember the teacher's desk was here. My desk was like over here, and we had a wall. So yeah, that was Miss Hinkleman's room. And this here was where the principal was. So, yep, principal office was here. In this window here. And I don't know if it's still there or not, but in this hallway, I actually had some artwork that was up here for like 20 years that I did, but they may have taken it down by now. I don't know if they saved it. I'd love to go in and see it, but it's Sunday, so it's closed, and it's just changed so much. All this was added on after I finished 6th grade. Oh yeah, so the gym is still back here. The original gym that I did all my PE and music and art and stuff was back here. That building there, that was the gym. So we did all of our PE and stuff there. And then these two, this like building here, that was the music room and art room. So here we've got, this is an old place. It's kind of sad when I came back to Texas and I saw this. This is an old burger joint that has been here for decades, since before I was even ever born. We used to go there, get hamburgers and shakes and bluebell ice cream, fries, you name it. Very classic burger joint. And apparently this year it caught on fire, so kind of sad. And so this is kind of like the main drag that goes through the middle of the town. This is 287. It's a business road, and it's highly industrialized, as you can see. So it's just a bunch of like warehouses and storage workshops, a lot of trucks. So yeah, not too exciting. And with this video, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to show the good, the bad, the ugly. There are some nice parts of town and some not so nice parts of town. Here we're going through this building on the side. On the left is the primary school I went to. That was when I was in kindergarten through second grade. And then we've got our bank here in the town that we have. I think it's a Wells Fargo bank. And then we're coming back up to that main expressway that I mentioned. This is Expressway 287, or not Expressway 287, Business 287. An old pharmacy across the street there that's been there forever. At least I guess it's still a pharmacy. It may be something else now. And now we're going to go the other direction. And so the funny thing with this area, I have to be careful what I say here because I don't want to get demonetized. But this road used to be pretty rough. Like when you went down this road, it was a lot of adult entertainment, video stores, what would you call, like places like gentlemen's clubs, I guess you'd say. Funny little story about this. We used to have to take this road to our religious meetings when I was a kid on Sundays. And, kids, they're so innocent, they don't know. And so we're in the car, and my sister saw one of the ladies coming out, because we had like an early service, and one of the ladies was coming out from the night in her outfit. And my sister's like, why is she still wearing her pajamas? So kids, innocent. But anyways, yeah, we used to call that area PORN corner because that's all it was, is just like adult entertainment, junkyards, old places full of old rundown cars and stuff you could go and get parts from. So they've really cleaned it up a lot through the last, 10, 15 years. And so, yeah, but a little history there about that area. There's still a few little spots like that, but anything like it used to be. So basically, we are heading out of the town that I grew up in, of Kennedale, and we're heading towards where my grandmother lived. The next big town would be Fort Worth. I think it's just under 1 million people living there. And so, yeah, so we're going to go there and check that out. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a heads up. It's a pretty rough area. They moved there when my mother was 14, and it was the hood. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I mean, it is what it is. Oh, this area right here that I'm driving through, this is like known for homeless people asking for money. On every single corner you'll see homeless people staying there asking for money, like during the week. So it's real sad seeing that. This neighborhood is mostly now Hispanic, so it's kind of cool. There's like a lot of Mexican restaurants and grocery stores and things like that through here. And my grandmother actually, because my grandmother lived there for years, she's since passed away about 7 years ago, I believe. And that was one thing she said was really nice about the people moving in, the Hispanic people, is they came and they started remodeling some of the houses, putting brick around them, putting nice little fences and stuff. And so that was kind of nice. But it's still very, very poor area. There's a lot of crime. Yeah, it's a pretty rough area. So we're going to kind of go through there and check that out. So one thing I've noticed too is you'll see in very impoverished areas like that church we just passed there, there are some of these neighborhoods, there's like a church on every corner. Um, yeah, I don't think I need to say much about that. Just an observation. So as I mentioned, yeah, this is an area that definitely has some financial challenges. My mother and my grandmother moved there when my mother was about 14. It was a single parent family with, I think at that time it was just my mother and my mother's sister, from what I remember. And so they didn't really have very much money, and they found an old house here. These houses were built like in the 1920s, so they weren't built with real good materials. So yeah, so this is the neighborhood where my mother spent most of her teenage years. It looks like it's trash day. All the trash cans are out. That's another funny thing when it comes to a difference of Texas and Sweden is when it comes to recycling, because you can see like there's one can for recycling and one can for trash, and then it's like you just kind of throw everything into the recycle bin. You don't really divide it up or anything. And I've actually heard a lot of times, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard rumors that sometimes even though you divide the recycling stuff in the blue bin, I think it's the blue bin there, that it still gets thrown in the regular trash anyways. So yeah, so this is the neighborhood, and we're going to take a turn here around the street here, and then we will be, I think that used to be an old car lot, and they removed it, the parking lot and everything. But yeah, so this is my grandmother's street right here, where she lived up till she passed away. I think, I could be wrong, I'd have to ask my mom, but I think she bought the house for like $11,000, like back in the late 70s. So they were pretty cheap. Her house was over here on the right. So it's this house right here with the turquoise door and the carport. My dad did a lot of work on it, put stucco on it and put a metal roof and fixed it up really nice. But yeah, so that's where my grandmother, she lived. And so here we are going back through my little town where I grew up. We've got the downtown right here. These are all brand new buildings. We didn't have any of that when I was there. This gas station was here. But yeah, they've done quite a bit of changes. One of the other things that I've noticed too is the power lines. There's just like power lines everywhere. In Sweden, there are some power lines, like especially the really big ones, but I don't really recall seeing a lot of this kind of power lines, like these unsightly power lines, which I think is kind of sad because it's like, when you get a storm or a tornado or an ice storm, they're prone to falling or getting damaged. Okay, now we're going to take a turn here we're going to go into the countryside a bit. Yeah, this is very industrial. We've got a scrap metal recycling thing here on the left. Lots of dump trucks, lots of, heavy equipment out here. And that's one thing that makes me sad when I compare the countryside in Texas to the countryside, say, in Sweden. Like in Sweden, most of the places I've been to out in the countryside, it's extremely clean. But in Texas, it's not that way. Typically what you find is the building codes, and sometimes there's actually just a lack of codes at all out here in these kinds of places. And so people just do whatever with their scrap and their trash. And so it's not, they don't really pick up after themselves. They just kind of like leave things hanging out. So yeah, I mean, not everything looks like this in America, but there is a lot more of this in America than there is in Sweden. And, every state varies. Some states are going to be more prone to this kind of, look than other places. So, and, and I'm trying really hard because I don't want to offend anyone because, there's people, I grew up here, I lived here, and there's some people that this is the only life that they've known. This thing here on the right, this is like a gigantic, from what I understand, it's a huge garbage dump on the side. Um, I think, and if someone watches this and is from Kennedale and they want to correct me, please feel free to do that in the comments, but from what I understand, that got dug out, like the dirt got dug out, and then they filled it back with trash. So, okay, and so here we are in nicer territory now. So this is in the outer limits, kind of out in the country outside of Kennedale, where I grew up. Uh, a lot of this land, it's mostly like ranches, farms. There's some industrial stuff mixed in there. And yeah, it's a lot nicer out here. The issue is these properties are quite expensive. So if you were to live out here, you really need a lot of money. A lot of the people that live here on these bigger properties, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars to be able to purchase a property like this. And so now is another interesting thing. So this is Kennedale Speedway. So we have a racetrack and we have like I don't know what it's called, but it's like a mud track racing thing. So there's two different racing things in Kennedale. This one, this was a favorite pastime of my dad. He loved to go out here and watch the races. It's a quarter mile. Oh, sorry, it's not a quarter mile track. It's an eighth of a mile track. And so you get a lot of local guys coming out here racing their cars, and it's a straight track. So anyway, that's a little bit of a video of what I kind of left behind, some of the life that I had in America. There was good, and there's stuff that's probably not so attractive to people. But yeah, that was my life. There's good and bad anywhere on this planet. There are some places that on the spectrum do tend to lean more towards, how shall I say, more room for improvement, and there's less things attractive about some places. And then there's some places that tend to do pretty well. But, most countries, they fall somewhere on that spectrum. And so, yeah, I do have roots in America, and I do enjoy going back to visit. It's not like I'm completely against, ever going back to America. My family's there. I have a lot of good things for me there. That's my heritage. But at the same time, I'm really grateful to be living here in Sweden too, as well. And so this video is just more for those of you that are curious about, what it was like for me where I left, because I know a lot of people just don't understand, especially if they've never been to America. They have nothing to compare it with. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and make sure to like, subscribe. It really helps me out a whole lot with the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, and you'll have a wonderful rest of your day.